Hey everybody, my name's Zeke Freeman. I'm the host of the Radical Hospitality Podcast. If you don't know, I also run an architecture firm, Root Architecture and Development. And we do a lot of work with some really creative individuals and clients that are doing unique things in hospitality and short-term rentals. So this is a presentation I gave about a week ago. I hope there's some lessons in here that help you in your short-term rental journey. So we wanted to share this for everybody. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe below. So a little bit about our story. My wife and I, we grew up in a small town in East Texas. We were high school sweethearts, and right out of high school, we decided off the bat to do our own thing, and we eloped a week after married. This was our first house hack, and eventually a little flip that we did. Our goal when we lived in East Texas was to get as far out of East Texas and home as we could, and we wanted to make it to the Colorado Rockies. So we planned on taking this little 16-foot trailer up to the mountains. On our way out, my dad pulled me over and he talked some sense. He was managing some properties across East Texas, and he offered a job. And he said, "Hey, Zeke, I love your dream, but why don't you park it here for a little bit? I've got a camp in East Texas that you can manage, and then you can finish up your college." So took the offer, went to work for my dad, and started my college career and degree in architecture. While I was there at this camp in East Texas, it needed a lot of repair. And so my job during the week was to design and rebuild all sorts of campground facilities. And so, we went from one project to another, eventually built a couple of residences on that property, got to move out of our trailer, sold that, moved into one of the residences that we built on the property, and started learning a little bit about investing. Because at that time, we had a free place to stay. We were making, what we thought was decent money, probably about 30 grand for a couple of kids. But we had extra money. We didn't have a lot of expenses. And so listened to Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We went and saw a conference biz in Dallas, and we bought our first long-term rental in 2001. And bought a little rental that, since we didn't have a mortgage, we started to put our money into some real estate. So that was our first venture in real estate. And we eventually sold that 16-foot trailer for a profit of $200. So fast forward 20 some odd years later, 25, I guess we'll be in end of next year. This is my beautiful bride. We were often told that we wouldn't make it, but here we are, still in love, still going strong, and have two wonderful sons up in the Colorado Rockies. And we are graduating my oldest son at Red Rocks concert venue in concert. So what a dream to go from the small dream of two kids at 18 years old to now being and wanting to make it to Colorado to build out our life. Having done that and being able to watch our son walk the stage of one of the great Colorado venues in Red Rocks. So Nate is the tall kid in the left, and Titus is my adventurer on the right. So here Nate is on his 18th birthday, dragging me out to go jump out of a perfectly good airplane. Titus on the right, just getting off the Colorado Trail, and then a couple of days out there this summer together. So really have been blessed in the life that we've got. And a lot of that has been through our venture in real estate. So we bought and fixed and flipped a couple of homes. This is one that our current home, when we first moved up to the Evergreen, Indian Hills area, we bought this little cabin. You can't see it, it's in the back. And we built on an addition to the front, built out a studio underneath, and have got to really, through this experience of buying projects and adding value to them, have been able to build out not only our own portfolio, but help other people. So this is, back up a little bit. So we now also run, like I mentioned, Root Architecture and Development, and we've done our own company since 2012, worked for a number of architecture firms right out of college since 2004. But we've had a lot of success and have had the pleasure of helping a lot of clients build out some really cool projects, and things from boutique hotels to custom single families. We've been named Best Architect on Expertise and In-House, and recently we were named Top 5 Architects at Denver. So our team now looks like an international team. We've got guys that are across Central America and in Europe. Every day we have to hop on a 10-minute huddle and make sure, everyone's catching up and what needs to be done and what needs to happen. And this is our team. So we're able to empower, people across the country to do some really great architecture. So some of the real estate that we focus on is short-term rentals and hospitality. And we saw a lot of this booming in the early 2010s. And a lot of the short-term rentals was kind of the Wild West during this time. And we would have people come to us. We would design a house. They would put it up on the market, short-term rental. And 2, 3, 4 times their rate of return. I kind of compare this to the oil boom in the early 20th century, where the Beverly Hillbillies, you'd stick a straw in the ground and it'd come exploding out. So that's changed a lot in the industry and what we've seen over the last 3, 4, 5 years. In 2024, there's now a lot of cities that's put in a lot of heavy regulations. Interest rates are up, so your cost of carrying property is more difficult. And then competition is way up. There's a number of more listings and short-term rentals that make this market more difficult. So we're located in Jefferson County. I'm going to cover real quick a couple of the key factors in Jefferson County and in Denver to be watching for if you're interested in getting short-term rentals. So properties must be a minimum of 1 acre. That's not a big issue up in the mountains, but a lot of Jefferson County also covers Gold and Lakewood, and those will be smaller lots. So needs to have a large size lot, so space from your neighbors. Key area is that also needs to be the primary dwelling unit on that lot. And in Jefferson County, all that means is they're not talking about your primary dwelling unit. They're talking about the primary dwelling unit per lot. And so where you may have an accessory dwelling unit, that would not be the primary dwelling unit, just the primary structure. There's also particular zone districts, R1, RR, MR1, SR1, SR2, SR5, A1, A2, and A35 are the allowed zone districts. And then lastly, the thing to watch for is that you have to go to the Board of Adjustments if you're going to do a short-term rental in Jefferson County. And that has to be renewed every year. So you really have to be a good neighbor and make sure that, you're watching and regulating your short-term rentals and not letting, those benefits and privileges to do short-term rental negatively impact your neighbors. In Denver, I'll highlight one key element, and they put in short-term rental regulations in 2016. This one regulation really made a difference because we had a lot of non-owner occupied investors purchasing properties and turning them into short-term rentals. So nothing wrong with that. It's just a marketplace that has gotten overcrowded, and there's a lot of concerns of losing long-term rentals to these short-term rentals. And so any short-term rental in Denver must be the host primary resident. And so what they mean by that is you can have a house and you can rent out bedrooms. You can also, in this case, have an accessory dwelling unit because they are looking for the primary residence to be owner occupied, and the accessory dwelling units could be a short-term rental. So it's kind of opposite of what we were just talking about in Jefferson County. So for investors, this has created, a difficult situation if you wanted to, say, buy a vacation rental in Denver and rent it out, or buy a portfolio properties vacation rentals. You no longer do that. With Jefferson County's limitations, having to go to Board of Adjustments every year, having to not allowing ADUs for rentals, and having to have that minimum of 1 acre, both Jefferson County and Denver, we've seen a lot of investors start to look at what are some of the alternative types of short-term rentals that could be created. And a lot of these have been around for a long time. They just require a little bit more permitting, entitlements, and maybe some research, but there's a lot of good opportunity in these alternative short-term rental models. So, if you think about it, what is a hotel but a grouping of short-term rentals? Same thing with campgrounds, glampgrounds, landscape hotels. All those in Jefferson County fit under these campground lodging use. And so these are some of the alternative options in Jefferson County. They are more difficult to attain entitlements for, but once you go through the process and you've attained entitlements, you've done the proper permitting, then they're more secure. You don't have to go through and renew it every year and have the risk of losing that licensing. So in Denver, some of those alternatives are bed and breakfast, hotels, extended stay, hostel, and motels. And I'm going to show some examples of how we use these different typologies in the short-term rental market to create some unique stays that fit underneath these umbrellas. We talked about regulations being an issue. Secondly, we talked about the rise in interest rates. We have seen a dramatic rise in interest rates, but one thing I want to point out is we are currently sitting at, that 6-7% interest rate. For a long time, between the 2010s to 2020s, we were in these below 5, dropping down to below 3%. Really, it's not that we are now sitting up in the 6-7s that's so dramatic. It's this spike here that it went up so quickly that the affordability of projects versus the value did not move in the same incline. And so we're in a situation right now where it is difficult because there is a rapid increase in cost and the values of the property haven't had time to catch up with that. Okay, the third issue that we talked about in making short-term rentals work is the overcrowdedness of the market. And so you can see from 2019 to 2020, we're going from 1.1. It actually dropped when we had COVID to 1.0, 2021, slight increase, but basically the same. And then we had this huge spike in 2022 of what we call revenge travel, where we were seeing a squeeze and then a number of listings. People were actually coming back on the market, had renting out and going on vacations in late 2021. And in 2022, the number of people that either pulled out, came back on, or new investors saw that because of this decrease of supply and demand, that there is now a pretty profitable margin to be made. And so from 2022 to 2023 to 2024, we added a couple 100,000 rentals each year. And so, that's a lot of additional rentals coming on the market. You'll see the demand has also continued to increase though. So in 2021, this was the jump to 17%, and that happened again from 2022. It has slowed down in 2023 and 2024. So the demand is continuing to increase. It's not quite tracking with the number of listings coming on the market. So there is getting to be a bit of a squeeze between availability and demand. Okay, so those are the three key issues that are causing a crunch in the short-term rental market. And my perspective on this is great. Okay, so the easy days of, short-term rentals are gone. We're no longer Beverly Hillbillies sticking a straw in the ground and out spurting oil. So there's good things and bad things about that. It might have been good for the Beverly Hillbillies, but it might have been bad for the environment with oil spilling all over the ground. So we're in that second wave of short-term rental shared economy, and I consider that similar to what we've seen in the oil industry of fracking taking root and having to go down and go deeper. I think the next wave of millionaires will be by those who are creative and are doing things right and looking deeper. So 2024, we're going to look at 5 creative strategies for short-term rentals: bed and breakfast, house hacking, and ADUs, campgrounds, glampgrounds, and landscape hotels, unique stays, tree houses, tiny homes, luxury tents, and boutique hotels. Okay, some bed and breakfast. This is a bed and breakfast project that was originally started out as a halfway house. It was a single room occupancy on the left, boarded up. This was purchased by one of our clients, and then we helped renovate, landscape, theme this project into a really beautiful 9-bedroom boutique hotel. You'll see interior motif kind of has an electric cowboy vibe, really created a lot of great outdoor spaces for guests to come and gather. And the unique character of this Curtis Park neighborhood in Denver has made a large impact in attracting guests and has created one of the top Airbnbs in Denver. So to get the entitlements on this, we had to convert it into bed and breakfast. So bed and breakfasts are nice in that it is a residential unit that has multiple bedrooms. One of the key things on a bed and breakfast is you have to have an on-site manager. And so in this case, the development group wanted to hire a third-party management company to manage this professionally. There was a accessory dwelling unit in the back, and the management company placed one of their staff members here, and so they have on-site management. So it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be the owner that has to live here, but a manager can still live here if you have a manager suite. And so this is the example of an on-site managed bed and breakfast. Okay, house hacks and ADUs. I think this is a great strategy. We've used it ourselves. This is a quick example of a duplex. So this was a single family. We helped actually a long friend of ours, single, recently divorced lady, add on a second unit. So this unit on the side, and then she uses this house to rent out as a long-term rental on one unit, and then her unit she lives in, and then she rents that out short-term and travels all over the world. So by giving her 2 units to rent, that's added to her rental portfolio. She has a few others. That really helped her kind of create that financial freedom. ADUs. So an ADU is accessory dwelling units. These are a unit that can be added to the back of the property. We've got several of these that are under construction currently. This is multiple variations. So we've got some 3 bedrooms, 1 bedrooms, studios, and all of these are being added either as part of a new construction or to the back of someone's property, creating additional rental income on an existing lot that they already own. So if you think about that, land is very expensive, especially in Denver, Colorado. So adding a unit on land that you already own is a way to house hack your existing property. There's some new legislation coming in Colorado that's allowing for ADUs to be much easier to build and less restrictions on zoning. So keep your eye on that. If you have questions about your property, we're glad to look at it and help you through that. Glampgrounds, RVs, and landscape hotels. So again, another variation. If you think nothing new, short-term rentals where you can apply some of these old school strategies, renting out land by the night or cabins by the night is a short-term rental. It is just a short-term rental with multiple on one site. And if you use some of the new technology, Airbnb, VRBO, Guestaway, there is a lot of opportunity to really increase and add value to some of these older campgrounds. So this is an example. This is up in Grant of a campground that was built without any permits, had all sorts of water issues, permitting issues on site. They helped the client put the property under contract and then go through a clean entitlement process, a planned unit development to redevelop this site into 9 campgrounds, 9 RV sites, and 9 tree houses. By rethinking what this site can be, we worked through all of the permitting issues, or should I say non-permitting issues, got this up to code, put in a master plan before they purchased the property, and then we were able to come in, help the client get the entitlements. They were able to purchase the property with the entitlements done, so they already were buying land with added value. Something to really think about if you're looking at a strategy like this, to make sure that you can purchase something that has the opportunity to get through the entitlements. It took about a year for us to do that. So this project's currently under construction. It'll be a beautiful set of 9 cabins in phase 1, part of the common area, bathrooms and showers as part of this phase 1, and then there's some additional phases that'll add some additional common spaces. It takes root and gets developed. Here's some rough ideas for what those land costs, rental costs are expected. Could be a pretty lucrative project to think about. Another project that we're working on down in the Dominican Republic, my business partner on the Red Hotel, which I'll show you guys in a minute, owns a coffee farm down in the Dominican Republic. We've been going through a master plan on that site and designing out a series of these unique A-frame tree houses. They'll be set up as a condo hotel. So in the first phase, you can actually purchase the unit, and then it'll be part of a master rental pool that will be managed with on-site concierge. Okay, unique stays and tree houses. So that's an example of the Glampgrounds Landscape Hotel. This is an example of a tree house that we built here in Colorado a couple of years ago. It's actually in our neighborhood across the street from the house that we live on. We wanted to purchase this piece of land. Our house looks out on it in order to accomplish a couple of things. The property was being sold, and we were concerned that someone would come in and put in a big house. In Colorado, you have to do a lot of fire mitigation. This was a heavily wooded lot, and we really didn't want to see all of those beautiful trees go away. This was a primary corridor coming from, there's a mountain range up above, and there's fields and meadows down below. And so a lot of the elk, bear, deer passed through this land, and we wanted to help preserve that. And so By doing a tree house and keeping it under 500 square feet, you're not required to have to do the full fire mitigation that you would on a larger project. So this allowed us to keep most of the trees. We still went through and mitigated this site. You can see, from the ground up, we trimmed everything up. This was really thicket, and we pulled a lot of that underbrush out, make this into a beautiful park-like feel. And then by setting the house up above, it really separates out the people from the wildlife, and they get to interact in a really unique way where you might get up early in the morning and see deer and elk kind of walking through below you, but almost like a deer tree stand since you're sitting up high. It doesn't bother them as much, and we still get that wildlife corridor coming through here. By doing it as a short-term rental, that's allowed us to hold on to this property, create something, a really unique experience for guests. So here's an idea of our cost on that project and what we're receiving in terms of gross rent. So it's been a pretty good investment for us. This is the short-term rental underwriting spreadsheet that we use to underwrite our projects. If you have an interest in this, let me know. You can DM me on Instagram. Be glad to help you with your project. So finally, boutique hotels. And this is the area that we're most excited about. We started having clients come to us, and after 2016, when those regulations went in place, and started looking at some of their apartment projects and smaller developments to create boutique hotels or small hotel groupings. So this was one of the first projects we did, which is actually 4 apartment units along this 3rd floor, and each unit was set up as either a 1-bedroom or a studio, and then fully furnished, fully decorated. We made one of the units accessible. So that's one of the requirements when you get into a hotel. So you can't just turn any apartment or condo unit into a hotel. It's got to be at least one of those groupings needs to have accessibility. So it means you probably need an elevator to get to it. You probably need to have some ADA bathrooms. You probably need an ADA parking spot. But by thinking that out, we created a really unique project that they can still short-term rental in Denver. So you can see this is the floor plan for that project. And that's led to us, as we've developed out our portfolio with the Tree House, helped other clients to develop their boutique hotels. Our desire was to find a spot that we could do that for a future office. So we took the same strategy from the Glampgrounds up in Grant, and we put a piece of property under contract in Morrison at the base of Red Rocks, and went through a full entitlement process without actually purchasing the property. And so over the past 18 months, we've worked with the city of Morrison and community and have proposed this project, walked through variations of what they would like to see. We're the 3rd group to try to do a hotel. No group has ever been able to do a hotel. And it's very likely another group won't be able to in the future. This project is extremely unique because we took that approach to work hand in hand with the city, come up with a project that fits into the character, but still allows this short-term stay and really capitalizes on one of the most unique outdoor concert venues in the world. Almost 1.5 million people coming to concerts every year, 9,000 people a night, over 200 concerts. This will be a premier destination by going through that process. We're going to have a full rooftop deck, e-bikes that'll be rented out, and a really cool food and beverage concept. So this has been some of our overall costs to get this project done. As we've gone through this process, we've studied a lot of these different experts that are in the area. These are some of the guys that I would recommend listening to and attending. We've also started our own podcast, as you know, the Radical Hospitality Show that you're listening to now. So why do this? As I mentioned on that duplex project, this is like Koontz. So this is just a snapshot of her Instagram page. And you can see this is really, the type of freedom and lifestyle she's been able to achieve by, working through and getting through short-term rentals and understanding the process. I'm going to share a quick story. This is a hero story in my mind. A friend of mine, client that we helped design his house a year ago, built the house, beautiful house in Boulder, was able to get it all constructed for under $2 million. About a year, sometime earlier this year in February, he came down with the flu. And at the end of the week with the flu, it turned into sepsis. And his organs began to shut down. He began to go into the ICU, and he spent several months at the ICU. In order to save his life, the doctors ended up having to amputate both his arms and legs. And through this, this is a father of two, and U.S. vet. He came out of that project, or out of that episode, and about 2 weeks ago got to visit with him again. And because of all the work that he did on his real estate investment, they were able to sell that house this last week for almost $4.5 million. And so even though he's lost his arms and his legs, he's been able to take care of his family through the investment that he's put into to it, even though he's in a situation now where he's not able to physically do what he could be before, because he thought ahead, invested in real estate. He's been able to really take care of his family. So think about real estate, and for me, it's not about just playing in the game. It's about building a legacy that you can pass on to your kids to be able to take care of your family. To me, there's a lot of importance in what we do, creating those unique experiences for people, both guests and as investors ourselves. So, this is your legacy. And so think about what is your dream, and how can you use that to better the people around you. If there's an opportunity that we can help you with any of your projects, always love to have a chat, see if there's something that we can do. You can reach me at my cell phone here or at therouteteam.com. You're always welcome to book a time and we can talk about your project. Awesome. That's it. So thank you so much for taking the time, if you stayed with me this long, to listen through some of our experience and ventures in hospitality, short-term rental investment, architecture. Would love to hear about your project.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Radical Hospitality Podcast. If you learned something new or you found this entertaining, please leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. And if you have a project that you're excited about and you're ready to talk to an architect, visit us at therouteteam.com and schedule your free virtual consult with me or one of my team members. That's therouteteam.com.